Restore Thrive, we're back. Thanks for joining us, guys. What we're going to talk about tonight is lab testing, and specifically for men who have struggled with high cholesterol and really haven't been able to solve that problem or want to do something besides just take a statin the rest of their lives. I want to share with you my experience dealing with cholesterol because I have a strong family history of high cholesterol, and I've actually been able to treat that without statins successfully. So if we come in here, what we're going to talk about today is the cholesterol issue. If we have a test that shows that we have high cholesterol, one of the things that's important to remember is that cholesterol doesn't exist in isolation. It's actually influenced by a number of things here that we're going to talk about. So the endocrine system, that system that produces hormones that helps drive a lot of the systems in our body, is hugely influential for cholesterol levels, and primarily DHEA is a big influencer of cholesterol, either lowering or raising or elevating cholesterol levels. But again, if we treat this in isolation, what happens is we have to consider all of these other factors that are interconnected here in a web. And if I pull on one thing up here, say the DHEA, what's going to happen is all these other things can shrink or can be affected in a way that negatively impacts our overall health. And testosterone is a perfect example of how this happens. Testosterone oftentimes will be tested in a blood test where we look at your cholesterol levels and maybe even your DHEA levels as well. And if we see low testosterone and go immediately to treating the testosterone on its own, what increased testosterone supplementation will do is will drive increased DHEA production, which will increase your cholesterol levels as well. So we could be creating a bigger problem if we're just pulling on that testosterone handle. We need to look at a couple other things. Cortisol, for instance, is a big stress hormone, and we know that it's an important part of how the endocrine system works. We actually want high cortisol early in the morning. It should be about 7 times higher in the morning than it is in the evening. But chronically high cortisol, which is affected by high levels of stress and high levels of sleeplessness, if you're a short sleeper getting less than 7 hours, it's a good bet your cortisol is going to be high. Cortisol is going to steal DHEA, which can again lead to increased cholesterol levels there. And even if we supplement with DHEA to try to solve a cholesterol or a testosterone issue, if we haven't looked at cortisol levels, again, we have an incomplete picture. Another piece of the testosterone puzzle is how much sex hormone binding globulin do you have? The abbreviation there is SHBG. And the big thing to remember there is that our testosterone can be high, but if we have this big SHBG, it's going to bind all that testosterone in a way that our body can't use. So again, if we throw in testosterone and have that high sex hormone binding globulin level, we're not actually going to get the effects of that testosterone supplementation. Another piece which we don't look at a lot of times with men is thyroid function. And we want to make sure when we're getting a test, a blood test, we want to look at several things, not just general thyroid numbers, but in order of importance, we want to look at T4, T3, and reverse T3. Those 3 submarkers of thyroid function give us a more complete picture of how the thyroid is working, and the thyroid is a big driver of the DHEA, the testosterone production, all the sex hormones that we see produced in the body. Thyroid is critically important to that. The last piece here is vitamin D. We think of that as just a simple vitamin that we would find in food, but we know that that actually acts more as what we call a pro-hormone. It actually helps increase things like DHEA, testosterone, improves even, we know, the ability to manage cortisol as well. So when you go in and get your lab testing done, what we've done is we've written down a number of tests that we feel are most important if you want to get a full picture of how your body, your endocrine system is functioning. So those in order here are free T4, DHEA, testosterone levels, that sex hormone binding globulin level, FSH, which is follicle stimulating hormone, D3, that's that vitamin D. We want to look at the D3 reading. And then for cortisol, there's a test called the adrenal stress index test. Cortisol is most often taken with a saliva test at 4 different times a day. That gives us a very accurate measure of your cortisol levels. So those 7 tests we feel like will give you a much more well-rounded picture of your general health. If you have cholesterol issues, if you're concerned about libido, energy, body fat, especially fat through your midsection, we know that we have to consider all of these things before we start prescribing interventions as far as medications or changes to diet or activity levels. So give these things a look. If you have questions, feel free to leave comments below. We can give you some more details about what optimal ranges are. We hope you guys find this useful, and we'll talk to you again soon.